Every heart hides a love it never forgets. Once upon a heart, a story you never told, a love you almost found. If your heart has ever broken softly, you're not alone. Take a breath. Let this tale remind you. Every path leads back to love. Tell me, which part of your heart whispered back?
Have you ever felt connected to someone you've never met? A voice, a glance, a moment that feels borrowed from another lifetime. This story begins exactly there. A story about a night soaked in rain. A story about two souls wandering through different lifetimes, searching for something they couldn't name. And a story about a secret that time itself protected, like a fragile glass museum. As you listen, remember this. Destiny doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it simply leaves the door open, and you have to choose whether to walk through it. This is what happened to Min. Min was 28 years old. Successful. Respected. Wealthy. Everyone said he had everything a person could ever want. A corner office on the 42nd floor. A luxury apartment in Gangnam. A promotion to executive director. A salary most people only dream about. But Min felt hollow. No amount of power could fill the quiet emptiness inside him. Not the expensive watch on his wrist. Not the company car waiting outside. Not the proud handshakes. Not the admiring looks from colleagues. Inside, something was missing. Something he didn't know how to name. Something that made him wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling wondering, is this all there is? That evening, the evening when everything changed, there was a celebration. Min had just been promoted. The entire executive team gathered in the conference room. Champagne glasses clinked. People smiled, congratulated him, patted his back. His boss gave a speech. Min is the perfect example of dedication. Hard work. Excellence. We're proud to have him leading our New York expansion. Everyone applauded. Min smiled, nodded, said thank you. But inside he felt like he was watching someone else's life. He excused himself, walked to the window, looked down at the glittering city below. Seoul stretched out before him. Millions of lights, millions of people, millions of lives being lived. And he thought, somewhere out there, is there a life that actually feels like mine? He didn't wait for an answer. He left his briefcase on his desk, left the celebration, left the building, left his carefully constructed life, for just a moment. And he stepped into the cold Seoul rain. Min walked. No destination. No plan. Just walking. Through Gangnam's bright lights, past neon reflections trembling in puddles, past expensive restaurants filled with laughter and clinking glasses, past boutique stores with mannequins wearing clothes that cost more than most people earned in a month. Everything felt artificial. Everything felt borrowed. Nothing felt like home. A couple passed him, laughing under a shared umbrella. A taxi splashed water near his shoes. A street vendor called out, trying to sell roasted chestnuts. Min kept walking. Without realizing it, he was moving away from the familiar. Away from the corporate towers. Away from the modern world. The streets began to narrow. The buildings grew older. The lights dimmed. He was walking deeper into the old quarters of Seoul. Places tourists rarely visited. Places where time moved differently. The modern world faded behind him like an old photograph losing its color. The air grew thicker, deeper, as if he wasn't just walking through streets, but through time itself. That's when he saw it. A sign. Old. Wooden. Swinging gently in the wind like a whisper. The paint was faded. The letters barely visible. Echo Antique Shop, established 1987. It shouldn't have stood out. Just another old shop in an old neighborhood. But it did. It felt as if the sign had been waiting for him specifically. As if it knew he would come. As if destiny had placed it there. Just for this moment. The door was slightly open. Just enough for a lost soul to slip inside. Min stood there for a long moment. Rain dripping from his hair. Heart beating strangely fast. He didn't know why. But he felt that stepping through that door would change everything. And without understanding why, he pushed it open. The moment he stepped inside, the world outside disappeared. The rain, the wind, the city, the noise all gone. What replaced it was silence. But not empty silence. Not cold silence. Silence full of life. Full of memories. Full of 1,000 forgotten stories whispering in the dark. Min looked around slowly. The shop was small, but it felt infinite. Old cameras lined the shelves. Each one had captured moments now lost to time. Stacks of vinyl records. Songs that once made people dance, cry, fall in love. Yellowed letters tied with ribbon. Words written by hands that no longer existed. Pocket watches frozen at different hours, as if each one had stopped at the exact moment its owner's heart did. Dusty photographs in cracked frames. Faces of people who had lived, loved, and vanished into memory. Everything in the shop had lived once. Everything had been loved once. Everything had a story. And somehow, everything was waiting. Waiting for someone. Min walked slowly through the aisles. His fingers brushed over objects delicately, as if waking old souls from sleep. A typewriter. A gramophone. A porcelain doll with faded eyes. Each object hummed with a life it once knew. And then he saw her. In the farthest corner, behind an old wooden counter, sat a girl. Her hair was tied loosely in a bun. Silver-rimmed glasses perched on her nose. A pen in her hand, writing carefully in a leather-bound ledger. She was surrounded by books, trinkets, and soft candlelight. She looked up. Their eyes met. And something happened. Something beyond words. Beyond logic. Beyond explanation. It wasn't attraction. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't coincidence. It was recognition. As if their souls had known each other long before their bodies ever did. As if they had been searching for each other across lifetimes. And finally, in this rain-soaked night, in this forgotten shop, they had found each other. "We're about to close," she said. Her voice was soft, gentle, but there was something in it. A sadness, maybe, or a loneliness that mirrored his own. Min swallowed. "I just needed to get out of the rain." She studied him for a moment, not judging, just seeing him, really seeing him, in a way no one had in years. "Then stay," she said quietly. Two simple words, but they felt like an invitation to something much bigger. An invitation to step out of the life he knew, and into a life he had been searching for without knowing it. Min didn't leave. He couldn't. Something in the shop held him, or maybe something in her. He walked deeper into the aisles. He picked up a cracked camera. Imagined the hands that once held it, the moments it had captured. He opened a dusty journal. Read a few faded lines written in elegant handwriting. "Today I met him again. I wonder if he remembers me the way I remember him." He turned an old pocket watch. It was stuck at 11:47, the exact time he had left the office tonight. Everything felt connected, as if the shop itself was speaking to him, telling him, "You were meant to be here." Then he found it. On a low shelf, half hidden behind books, a small wooden music box. The paint was faded, the edges chipped. The brass crank rusted slightly. It looked forgotten, abandoned, but to Min it felt like treasure. He lifted it carefully. It was heavier than it looked. He turned the crank slowly. A lullaby drifted out. Soft, slow, pamphili familiar, as if he had heard it before. But in another life, in a dream he couldn't quite remember. His chest tightened. Why did this song feel like home? Why did it feel like loss? That music box has been here for 3 years, a voice said beside him. It was her. Jay, though he didn't know her name yet. She stood close, looking at the music box with a strange expression. No one wanted it, she continued. Too old. Too broken. Too sad. Min listened, still turning the crank, still hearing the lullaby. Maybe, he whispered. It was just waiting for the right person. Jay studied him quietly. There was something in her gaze, recognition maybe, or understanding. You're different, she said softly. Different how? Most people who come here see old junk. Things to buy cheap and sell expensive. But you. She paused. You see the soul. They talked. Not about anything important. Not about work or plans or the future. Just talk. Min learned her name was Jay. That she had inherited the shop from her grandmother 3 years ago. That she had given up her dream of becoming an illustrator to keep the shop running. Why? Min asked. Jay smiled sadly. Because my grandmother believed this place was important. Not for money. Not for business. But because... She hesitated. Because lost things find their way here. And sometimes lost people do too. Min told her about his life. The promotions. The success. The emptiness. Everyone thinks I have everything, he said. But I feel like I'm living someone else's dream. Jay nodded. Maybe you are. By midnight, Min still hadn't left. His phone had buzzed a dozen times. Messages from his boss. Emails marked urgent. He ignored all of it. The real world felt far away. Unimportant. Here, in this small shop lit by candlelight, surrounded by forgotten things, he felt more real than he had in years. Finally, he stood to leave. At the door, Jay asked softly, "Will you come back tomorrow?" Min looked into her eyes, and without hesitation he answered, "Yes, I'll keep coming back." The next day Min returned, and the day after that, and the day after that. Every evening at 5 p.m., he would leave his office. Ignore the confused looks from colleagues. Ignore the frustrated calls from his boss. And he would take the train to the old quarter. Walk through the narrow streets. Push open the door to the Echo Antique shop. And Jay would be there, waiting. About the man beside her. About the way they looked at each other. As if nothing in the world could ever separate them. Finally, exhausted, he fell asleep. And he dreamed. But it wasn't a normal dream. It was vivid. Real. As if he had stepped through time. Min found himself standing on a street corner in Old Seoul. The buildings were different. The clothes people wore were different. The air smelled different. Smoke, rain, flowers. He looked down at himself. He was wearing a simple suit. His hands looked older, rougher. And then he saw her. Sora. Walking toward him with a smile that could light up the darkest night. She ran into his arms. "You came back," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I always come back," he heard himself say. But it wasn't his voice. It was someone else's. Someone older. Someone whose heart had loved this woman for longer than Min had been alive. They walked together through the streets, holding hands, talking about the future, about the life they would build together. After the war, Sora said, we'll open a little shop, sell antiques, spend our days surrounded by beautiful, forgotten things. He laughed. Only if you promise to be there with me. Always, she whispered. But then, a sound. Sirens. Shouting. Soldiers running through the streets. War, someone screamed. The war is starting again. Sora's hand was ripped from his. No. Sora. Sora. He tried to reach her. Tried to hold on. But the crowd pulled them apart. I'll find you, he shouted. I promise. I'll find you. Wait for me, she cried. Wait for me. And then, nothing. Min woke up gasping, tears streaming down his face, his chest aching as if he had lost something precious, as if he had been searching for something, for someone for lifetimes. He looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. He grabbed his jacket and ran to the shop. When Min arrived at the shop, the door was already unlocked. The lights were on, and Jay was sitting at the counter, holding an old envelope. She looked up at him. Her eyes were red. You dreamed of her, didn't you? Min froze. How did you? Because I dreamed of him, Jay whispered. They stared at each other. The man in the photograph, Min said shakily. He's my grandfather. I saw him. I was him. I felt everything he felt. His love. His loss. His endless searching. Jay nodded slowly. The woman. Sora. She's my great-grandmother. She waited her whole life. But he never came back. Min's voice broke. He tried. God, he tried so hard. But the war separated them. And by the time it ended, he couldn't find her. He searched for years. Until the day he died. Jay's hands trembled as she held the envelope. My grandmother left me this, she whispered. Before she died, she said, if someone ever comes looking for Sora, give them this. She handed the letter to Min. He opened it with shaking hands. The letter read, to the one who comes after me, this shop is not just a place. It is a bridge between times, between souls, between loves that time tried to destroy. For 60 years I kept this bridge open. I waited for you. If you are reading this, you have found each other again, not as the people you were, but as the souls you have always been. Love does not disappear. It waits. It endures. It crosses lifetimes. Finish what we could not. Live the life we were denied. And keep this bridge open for all the lost souls still searching. Min collapsed, tears streaming down his face. He loved her, Min whispered. Until the day he died. He never stopped. He never moved on. And I was about to make the same mistake. He looked at Jay. I was about to leave, to chase success, to run away from the only real thing I've ever felt. Jay's tears fell silently, and I was too afraid to stop you. Min stood, walked to her, took her hands. I'm not leaving. Not for New York. Not for anything. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing us. That night something changed. The shop woke up. All the clocks began chiming at once. The music box played without being wound. Photographs shifted on the walls, aligning themselves. Candles flickered in patterns. The air grew thick, warm, alive. And in the center of the shop, two figures began to appear, translucent, shimmering, made of memory and longing. Min's grandfather and Sora. They stood facing each other. For the first time in over 60 years. Sora reached out a trembling hand. "You came back," she whispered. "I never stopped looking," he replied, voice breaking. "I waited." "I know." They turned to Min and Jay. "Thank you," Sora said softly, "for finishing what we could not. For choosing love when the world told you not to." Min's grandfather smiled. "Live, my boy. Love her. Don't waste a single moment. Time is precious, but love is eternal." The two figures embraced one final time. And then, peacefully, gently, they faded into light. The shop settled. The clocks stopped chiming. The music box fell silent. But the air felt lighter, freer, as if a weight carried for decades had finally been lifted. Min and Jay stood together, hand in hand, tears on their cheeks, but smiles on their lips. "It's over," Jay whispered. "No," Min said softly. "It's just beginning." The next morning, Min didn't go to his office. He sat at the small wooden desk in the back room of the shop, opened his laptop, and typed one final email. His hands didn't shake. His heart didn't waver. "Dear Board of Directors, I resign from my position as Executive Director, effective immediately. I've found something more important than success. I've found a life worth living. Thank you for everything. But this is where my real journey begins. Sincerely, Min." He clicked send. And he never looked back. Jay stood in the doorway watching him. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. Min closed the laptop and turned to her. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Then let's begin." Days turned into weeks. Min and Jay reopened the shop together. They cleaned every corner, dusted every shelf, polished every forgotten object until it gleamed with quiet dignity. They organized the inventory, cataloged the stories behind each item, and opened the doors every morning at 9. At first, only a few people wandered in. Curious tourists, elderly locals who remembered the shop from decades past, antique collectors looking for bargains. But slowly, word began to spread about a little shop in the old quarter, where lost things were found, where broken hearts were mended, where souls searching for meaning discovered it. And the people came, one by one, each carrying their own story, each searching for something they couldn't name. The first visitor, who truly mattered, arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. An old man, bent with age, eyes clouded with decades of grief. He shuffled through the door, leaning heavily on a cane, and looked around with a kind of desperate hope. Min approached him gently. "Welcome. Can I help you find something?" The old man's voice cracked when he spoke. "My daughter," he whispered. "I'm looking for my daughter." Jay came to stand beside Min. "Tell us about her," she said softly. The old man's eyes filled with tears. "Her name was Hannah. She was 7 years old when the war took her. I searched for years, decades, but I never found her." He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his coat pocket. A child's drawing. Faded, torn at the edges. "This is all I have left of her. She drew this the morning before everything fell apart. It's a picture of our family, standing in front of our old house." Min took the drawing carefully, studied it. Something stirred in his memory. He walked to the back of the shop, to a dusty box he and Jay had opened just yesterday. Inside were old photographs from the 1950s. He searched through them slowly, and then he found it. A photograph, black and white, a family standing in front of a house. The same house from the drawing. Is this? Min whispered. He brought the photograph back to the old man. The man's hands trembled as he took it. That's us, he breathed. That's my family. That's Hannah. He pointed to a little girl in the photograph, smiling brightly, holding her mother's hand. How did you? I don't know, Min said honestly. But I think she wanted you to find this. The old man wept. Deep, soul-shaking sobs. Min and Jay stood with him, offering quiet presence, holding space for his grief and his gratitude. When he finally left, clutching the photograph to his chest, he turned back at the door. Thank you, he whispered. You've given me peace. After all these years, I can finally rest. After he was gone, Jay turned to Min. How did you know where to find that photograph? Min shook his head. I didn't know. I just felt it. As if the shop itself was guiding me. Jay looked around at the walls, the shelves, the objects surrounding them. Maybe it is, she said softly. The next visitor came 3 days later. A young woman, mid-20s, eyes red from crying. She walked through the shop slowly, touching objects as if searching for something that would make sense of her pain. Jay approached her carefully. Are you looking for something specific? The woman looked up, startled. I don't know. My grandmother passed away last week, and before she died, she told me to come here. She said I would find what I needed. What did you need? Jay asked. The woman's voice broke. Closure. Understanding. She and my grandfather were separated during the war. He died before they could reunite. And she spent her whole life waiting for him. Never remarried. Never moved on. Just waited. Jay's breath caught. What was your grandmother's name? Lee Mi-sun. Jay turned pale. My grandmother knew a Lee Mi-sun. They were friends. Wait here. She disappeared into the back room. When she returned, she was carrying a small wooden box. Have you ever felt connected to someone you've never met? A voice, a glance, a moment that feels borrowed from another lifetime. This story begins exactly there. A story about a night soaked in rain. A story about two souls wandering through different lifetimes, searching for something they couldn't name. And a story about a secret that time itself protected, like a fragile glass museum. As you listen, remember this. Destiny doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it simply leaves the door open, and you have to choose whether to walk through it. This is what happened to Min. Min was 28 years old. Successful. Respected. Wealthy. Everyone said he had everything a person could ever want. A corner office on the 42nd floor. A luxury apartment in Gangnam. A promotion to executive director. A salary most people only dream about. But Min felt hollow. No amount of power could fill the quiet emptiness inside him. Not the expensive watch on his wrist. Not the company car waiting outside. Not the proud handshakes. Not the admiring looks from colleagues. Inside, something was missing. Something he didn't know how to name. Something that made him wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering, is this all there is? That evening, the evening when everything changed, there was a celebration. Min had just been promoted. The entire executive team gathered in the conference room. Champagne glasses clinked. People smiled, congratulated him, patted his back. His boss gave a speech. Min is the perfect example of dedication. Hard work. Excellence. We're proud to have him leading our New York expansion. Everyone applauded. Min smiled, nodded, said thank you. But inside Inside he felt like he was watching someone else's life. He excused himself, walked to the window, looked down at the glittering city below. In quiet conversations between people who understood grief, in support groups for those who had lost someone, in online forums for people searching for closure. If you've lost something precious, they said, go to the Echo Antique Shop. You might find more than you're looking for. One autumn evening, as golden light filtered through the dusty windows, Min and Jay sat together at the counter. The shop was quiet. No customers. Just the two of them. Do you ever regret it? Jay asked. Regret what? Giving up your career. Your future in New York. All that money and success. Min looked around the shop. At the shelves filled with stories. At the objects waiting to find their owners. At Jay's face, illuminated by candlelight. Never, he said. This is my success. This is my future. And you. He took her hand. You are everything I was searching for without knowing it. Jay leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Min replied. And in that moment, surrounded by 100 lifetimes of love and loss, they understood something their grandparents had known all along. Love doesn't end. It transforms. It crosses time. It waits patiently until two souls brave enough to recognize each other find their way home. Winter came. Snow fell softly on the old streets of Seoul. The shop glowed warmly, a beacon for lost souls wandering through the cold. One evening, as Min was closing up, the door opened. A young man stepped inside. He looked around nervously, as if unsure he was in the right place. We're about to close, Min said gently. I know, the man replied. But I was told to come here. By my grandfather. Before he died. What did he tell you? He said that if I ever felt lost, if I ever didn't know where I belonged, I should come to the Echo Antique Shop. And I would find my answer. Min smiled. Then take your time. Look around. The shop will speak to you. The young man wandered through the aisles, touching objects, reading letters, studying photographs. And then he stopped. In front of an old typewriter. He stared at it for a long time. My grandfather was a writer, he said quietly. He always told me I should write. But I became an accountant instead. Because it was safe. Practical. He touched the typewriter keys gently. I've been miserable for 5 years. Sitting in an office. Crunching numbers. Feeling like I'm living someone else's life. Min walked over to him. This typewriter belonged to a journalist, Min said. He used it to tell stories that mattered. Stories that changed lives. The young man looked up. How much? It's not for sale, Min said. The man's face fell. But, Min continued, I'll make you a deal. Take it home. Write one story. Just one. And if it changes your life, pay it forward. Help someone else find what they're searching for. The young man's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, he whispered. After he left, carrying the typewriter carefully, Jay came to stand beside Min. You gave it away, she said. I know. We needed the money from that sale. I know. So why? Min turned to her. Because some things are more valuable than money. Some things are priceless. Like hope. Like purpose. Like helping someone find their way. Jay kissed him softly. You're a good man, Min. I'm just doing what the shop taught me to do. A year passed. Then 2. The shop continued to thrive. Not financially. They barely made enough to survive. But spiritually. In ways that couldn't be measured. They became known as the couple who helped people find what they'd lost. Not just objects. But meaning. purpose, connection. And one rainy evening, 3 years after Min first walked through that door, another couple arrived. A young man and a young woman, both soaked from the rain, both looking lost. They wandered through the shop separately, not speaking, not acknowledging each other, but drawn to the same objects. The man picked up a photograph. His hands trembled. The woman found a letter. Her breath caught. They moved through the aisles closer, closer, until they stood at the same shelf, where an old music box waited. The same music box Min had found 3 years ago. The man reached for it. The woman did too. Their hands touched. They looked up. Their eyes met. And something impossible happened. Recognition. Not of faces, but of souls. "I know you," the woman whispered. "I know you too," the man replied. The music box began to play. On its own. Without being wound. The same lullaby. Soft and haunting. "I've heard this song," the woman said, tears streaming down her face. "In my dreams. Every night since I was a child." "So have I," the man said, his voice breaking. They stood there, holding the music box together. As the melody wrapped around them like a long-lost memory, Min and Jay watched from the counter, holding hands, smiling through their own tears. "It's happening again," Jay whispered. "It always will," Min replied. "As long as the shop stands. As long as love endures. As long as lost souls keep searching. They will find each other here." The young couple left together that night, walking side by side through the rain. Strangers an hour ago, soulmates now. After they were gone, Min locked the door and turned to Jay. "Do you think they'll come back?" "They will," Jay said with certainty. "Just like you did. Just like everyone does. Because once you find this place, once you find what you're searching for, you never really leave." She was right. Over the years, people returned. The old man who found his daughter's photograph came back every month, just to sit in the shop and feel close to her memory. The young woman who received her grandfather's letter returned on the anniversary of her grandmother's death, bringing flowers and gratitude. The accountant who took the typewriter came back 2 years later. As a published author, clutching his first book, tears of joy in his eyes. "You changed my life," he told Min. "No," Min said gently. "You changed your own life. The shop just reminded you who you were meant to be." 5 years after Min first walked through the door, he and Jay stood in the shop one quiet evening. Outside, snow was falling. Inside, candles flickered softly. "Do you ever wonder," Jay asked, "what would have happened if you hadn't walked through that door? If you'd stayed in your office that night? If you'd gone to New York?" Min pulled her close. "Every day," he admitted. "And every day, I'm grateful I made the choice I did. Even though we barely have enough money? Even though your family thinks you're crazy? Even though the world doesn't understand?" Min kissed her forehead. "Especially because of that. Because the world doesn't understand that some things are more important than money or status or approval. Love is more important. Purpose is more important. Living a life that feels true. That's more important than anything." Jay rested her head on his chest. "I'm glad you found me," she whispered. "I'm glad you were waiting," Min replied. They stood there in the soft candlelight, surrounded by 100 stories of love and loss, holding each other as snow fell outside. And they understood, with perfect clarity, what their grandparents had tried to tell them all along. Love never dies. It transforms. It endures. It crosses time and space and death itself. And if you're brave enough to recognize it when it appears, if you're brave enough to choose it over everything else, It will lead you home. 10 years passed. The Echo Antique Shop became a legend in Seoul, not in the glossy magazines or tourist guidebooks, but in whispered conversations, in quiet recommendations, in the hearts of people who had been touched by its magic. Min's hair had begun to gray at the temples. Jay wore reading glasses now when she catalogued inventory, but their love had only deepened, like wine aging in oak barrels, like rivers carving canyons, like roots growing deep into the earth. They had never married, not because they didn't want to, but because they understood that their commitment went deeper than any certificate or ceremony could express. They were bound by something older, something eternal, soul recognition. Every morning, they woke up in the small apartment above the shop, made tea together, read the morning paper, talked about the day ahead. And every evening, they closed the shop together, locked the door, blew out the candles, climbed the stairs hand in hand. It was a simple life, but it was theirs. And it was perfect. One spring morning, an envelope arrived. No return address. Just Min's name written in elegant handwriting. He opened it carefully. Inside was a wedding invitation. And a note. Dear Min, you don't know me, but 10 years ago, I walked into your shop on the worst day of my life. I had just lost my job. My fiancé had left me. I was planning to end it all, but you gave me an old typewriter. Told me to write one story. Just one. I did. And that story changed everything. I'm getting married next month. To a woman I met at a writing workshop. I've published 3 books. I'm living the life I always dreamed of. Because of you. Please come to my wedding. I want to thank you in person. With eternal gratitude, James Park. Min showed the letter to Jay. She read it with tears in her eyes. Are you going to go? I don't know, Min said. I barely remember him. That's the point, Jay said softly. You changed his life without even knowing it. You gave him hope when he had none. That's what the shop does. That's what we do. We plant seeds. We may never see them grow, but they do. Min looked around the shop, at the 1,000 objects waiting to find their owners, at the 1,000 stories waiting to be told. How many lives do you think we've touched? He asked. I don't know, Jay replied, but I know it matters. Every single one. They went to the wedding. It was beautiful. James saw them in the crowd and wept. He introduced them to his bride, to his family, to his friends. These are the people who saved my life, he told everyone. After the ceremony, James pulled Min aside. I need to know, he said. How did you know? How did you know that giving me that typewriter would change everything? Min smiled. I didn't know. I just trusted. Trusted that the shop would guide me. Trusted that what needed to happen would happen. James shook his hand. Thank you. For trusting. For believing. For seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. On the drive back to Seoul, Min and Jay sat in comfortable silence. Do you ever wonder, Jay finally asked, if we're just imagining all of this? If the shop's magic is real or just coincidence? Min thought about it. Does it matter? He asked. What do you mean? Whether it's magic or coincidence. Whether the shop is truly a bridge between worlds or just a place where broken people find hope. Does it change the outcome? Does it make the healing any less real? Jay smiled. No. I suppose it doesn't. Then let's just keep doing what we're doing. Helping people. Offering hope. Creating a space where lost souls can find themselves. 15 years after Min first walked through the door, his phone rang. It was his father. They hadn't spoken in over a decade. Not since Min had resigned from his position. Not since he had chosen the shop over success. His father had been furious, called him a fool, said he was wasting his life. Min had accepted it. He couldn't make his father understand, so he had let him go. Hello. Min answered cautiously. Min. His father's voice was older now, weaker. Father. A long silence. I'm sick, his father finally said. The doctors say I have 6 months. Maybe less. Min's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be. I've lived a full life. A successful life. Another silence. But, his father continued, voice breaking, I've realized something. I was wrong. Wrong about what? About you. About your choice. I spent my whole life chasing money, status, power. And I achieved it all. But now at the end, I'm alone. Your mother passed 5 years ago. My colleagues have all retired. My friends. I don't know if I ever really had any. And I look at you, living in that tiny shop, barely making ends meet. But you're happy. You're loved. You've touched more lives than I ever did. Min felt tears on his cheeks. I want to see you, his father whispered. Before I go, I want to tell you I'm proud of you, that I was wrong to judge you, that you made the right choice. Min visited his father in the hospital the next day. They talked for hours. About regrets. About choices. About the meaning of success. You were braver than I ever was, his father said. You chose love over fear. Purpose over approval. Meaning over money. I wish I had done the same. His father passed away 2 weeks later. At the funeral, Min stood at the podium and spoke. My father and I didn't always see eye to eye. We had different definitions of success. Different ideas of what a life well lived looked like. But at the end we understood each other. And I want to say this. There is no single path to a meaningful life. For some, meaning comes from career achievement. For others, from family. For others still from service, art, exploration. What matters is not the path you choose. What matters is that you choose it consciously. That you live it fully. That you don't reach the end with regrets about the life you didn't live. My father lived his life his way. And I'm living mine. And both are valid. Both are worthy. Both matter. After the funeral, Jay held Min as he wept. He finally understood. Min said through his tears. At the very end he finally saw. That's all we can hope for, Jay whispered. That the people we love understand us before it's too late. 20 years after Min first walked through the door, they received another visitor. An old woman. Frail, leaning on a walker, but with eyes that sparkled with life. She shuffled through the shop slowly, looking at everything with wonder. I used to come here, she said. 60 years ago. When I was young. Before the war. Jay approached her gently. You knew my grandmother? The old woman smiled. I knew Sora. Min and Jay froze. You knew Sora? I was her best friend. We grew up together. Shared secrets. Dreamed of the future. She looked around the shop. She always said she would open a place like this. After the war. With the man she loved. But the war took him. And she spent the rest of her life waiting. Tears streamed down the old woman's face. I came to tell you something. Before Sora died, she told me to find this shop. To tell whoever was running it. That her wait was over. That she found him. In whatever world comes after this one, she found him. And they're together now. Finally. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. She wanted you to have this. Inside was a photograph. The same photograph Min had found 20 years ago. But on the back, in fresh ink, were new words. Love never dies. It only waits. Thank you for keeping the bridge open. Thank you for finishing what we could not. May your love be as eternal as ours. Sora. Min and Jay held each other and wept. After the old woman left, they sat in silence for a long time. She found him, Jay finally whispered. They found each other, Min replied. Because of this shop. Because we kept it open. Because we believed. They looked around at the shelves, the objects, the stories. How many more are waiting? Jay asked. Hundreds, Min said. Thousands. Même millions. But we'll help them. One soul at a time. For as long as we're here. And after we're gone? Min smiled. Someone else will come. Someone who needs this place as much as we did. And the bridge will continue. Forever. 25 years after Min first walked through that door on a rainy Seoul night, he and Jay sat together in the shop. Their hair was silver now. Their hands weathered. Their faces marked by time. But their eyes still sparkled with the same recognition they had seen in each other that very first night. Outside, rain was falling, just like it had been all those years ago. Do you hear that? Jay asked. The rain? No. Listen closer. Min closed his eyes, and he heard it. Footsteps. Approaching the door. Someone running through the rain. Lost. Searching. About to find exactly what they needed. The door opened. A young woman stepped inside. Soaked from the rain. Eyes wide with wonder. Heart open to possibility. She looked around the shop with the same expression Min must have had 25 years ago. We're about to close, Jay said gently. The young woman's face fell. I needed to get out of the rain. Min and Jay looked at each other. And smiled. Then stay, Min said. The young woman walked slowly through the shop. Touching objects. Reading letters. Feeling the weight of history in every corner. And then the door opened again. A young man stepped inside. Also soaked. Also searching. He and the young woman didn't notice each other at first. But Min and Jay watched. Knowing what would happen. Knowing it always happened. The young man wandered to the back of the shop. The young woman moved toward the same corner. And there, on a dusty shelf, sat the music box. The same one Min had found. The same one that had brought so many souls together. They reached for it at the same moment. Their hands touched. They looked up. Their eyes met. And time stopped. Just like it had for Min and Jay. Just like it had for Min's grandfather and Sora. Just like it had for countless souls across countless lifetimes. Recognition. Not of faces, but of something deeper. Soul calling to soul across the vast emptiness of existence. I know you, the young woman whispered. I know you too, the young man replied. Min and Jay stood behind the counter, holding hands, watching with quiet joy. It's happening again, Jay whispered. It always does, Min replied. The young couple stood there, hands still touching the music box, unable to look away from each other. Min walked over to them. That music box has been waiting for you, he said gently. How did you know? The young woman asked. Because 25 years ago it was waiting for me too. He told them his story. About the rainy night. About the choice he made. About the life he built. About finding home in the most unexpected place. This shop, Min said, is a bridge. Between the past and the future. Between what was lost and what can still be found. Between souls searching for each other across time. If you're here, you were meant to be. And if you found each other, don't let go. The young couple left together that night. Walking side by side through the rain. Strangers when they arrived. Soulmates when they left. After they were gone, Min locked the door one final time. He and Jay climbed the stairs to their apartment, made tea, sat by the window, watching the rain fall on the old streets of Seoul. How many do you think? Jay asked. How many what? How many souls have found each other here? Min thought about it. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Maybe more than we'll ever know. Jay leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you ever regret it? Giving up everything for this? Min kissed her forehead. Every day, I wake up grateful. Grateful that I walked through that door. Grateful that you let me stay. Grateful for every soul we've helped. Grateful for this life we've built together. Regret? Never. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the rain, holding each other. And Min thought about all the lives that had intersected in that small shop. The old man who found his daughter's photograph. The young woman who received her grandfather's letter. The accountant who became a writer. The countless couples who recognized each other. Every single one had walked through that door searching for something. And every single one had found more than they were looking for. They had found hope. They had found healing. They had found home. What happens to the shop when we're gone? Jay asked quietly. Someone will come, Min said with certainty. Someone who needs it. Someone who's searching. Someone who's meant to keep the bridge open. How do you know? Because that's how it's always been. Your grandmother kept it open. We kept it open. And someone else will too. The shop doesn't belong to us. We belong to it. We're just guardians. Temporary keepers of something eternal. Jay closed her eyes. I'm tired. Mean. I know, my love. But it's a good tired. The kind that comes from a life well lived. From love well given. From purpose well served. Yes, Min agreed. The very best kind of tired. They sat together as the rain continued to fall. And somewhere in the distance, church bells chimed midnight. A new day beginning. An old day ending. The eternal cycle continuing. Years later, neither of them knew exactly how many. Because time had become fluid in their old age, Jay fell ill. The doctors said there was nothing they could do. Her body was simply worn out. Like an old book read too many times. Like a favorite record played until the grooves wore smooth. Min never left her side. He held her hand. Read to her. Reminded her of all the beautiful moments they had shared. Remember the first night? He asked. When you walked in from the rain. Jay whispered, smiling. I knew immediately. Knew what? That you were the one I'd been waiting for. Not in this lifetime, but across all lifetimes. My soul recognized yours. And mine recognized yours, Min said, tears streaming down his face. Jay reached up with a trembling hand and wiped his tears. Don't cry, my love. This isn't an ending. It's just a transition. Like the shop has always taught us. Nothing truly ends. It just transforms. I'll wait for you. On the other side of the bridge. And when your time comes, I'll be there. Just like Sora was there for your grandfather. Just like every soul we've helped has found their way home. We'll find each other again. Min kissed her hand. I'll find you, he promised. I'll always find you. Jay smiled. I know. She closed her eyes. And with Min's hand in hers, she crossed the bridge. Min sat with her for a long time after she was gone. Not crying. Not grieving. Just present. Feeling the weight of 25 years of love. Feeling grateful for every moment. Feeling certain that this was not the end. He buried her in a small cemetery on the edge of Seoul. Planted flowers on her grave. Visited every week. And kept the shop open. Because that's what she would have wanted. Because the bridge needed to remain open. because there were still souls searching. 5 more years passed. Min ran the shop alone. His movements slower now. His memory sometimes foggy. But his purpose remained clear. Help those who are lost. Offer hope to those who have none. Keep the bridge open. One winter evening, as snow fell softly outside, Min sat in his usual chair by the window. The shop was quiet. No customers. Just him and the memories. He closed his eyes. And he heard it. Jay's voice. I'm here, my love. I've been waiting. It's time to come home. Min smiled. I'm ready. He took one last look around the shop. At the shelves filled with stories. At the objects that had brought so many souls together. At the music box, still sitting on its shelf, waiting for the next searching soul. Thank you, he whispered to the shop, for giving me a life worth living, for giving me love worth keeping, for showing me that some things are eternal. He closed his eyes and crossed the bridge. The next morning, a young woman found him, peaceful, smiling, gone. She called the authorities, and while they were processing the scene, she looked around the shop, at the objects, at the photographs, at the letters, and she felt something stir inside her. A calling, a purpose. This place needed someone, and maybe she was that someone. She had been lost for so long, wandering through life without direction, working jobs that meant nothing, living a life that felt borrowed. But standing in this shop, surrounded by these stories, she felt, for the first time in years, home. When the authorities asked if she knew the deceased, she said no. But when they asked if anyone would be taking over the shop, she said, I will. They looked at her strangely. Did you know him? No, she said honestly. But I think I was meant to find this place. I think I was meant to be here. And so it continued. The Echo Antique Shop. The bridge between worlds. The sanctuary for lost souls. Passed from keeper to keeper. From generation to generation. From one searching soul to the next. Forever. Underscore 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 underscore. Rain falls again on the old streets of Seoul. But in one small corner of the city, in one forgotten shop lit by candlelight, love never dies. It waits. It endures. It crosses lifetimes, generations, centuries. And if you're listening to this story tonight, if your heart feels heavy, if you feel lost or alone or searching for something you can't name, know this. You are not alone. Somewhere in some corner of time, in some forgotten place, your soul's home is waiting. And when you find it, when you walk through that door, everything will make sense. Min walked into the rain 25 years ago, and it led him to Jay, to the shop, to his purpose, to his soul. He chose love over success, purpose over approval, meaning over money, and he never regretted it. Not for a single moment. Now they're together again, on the other side of the bridge, waiting, watching, helping lost souls find their way home, just as they always have, just as they always will. Because love never ends. It transforms. It waits patiently, until the right person, at the right time, walks through the right door, and finds exactly what they've been searching for all along. The end. For all the lost souls still searching. For all the loves waiting to be found. For all the doors left open in the rain. For all the bridges that connect us across time. May you find your Echo Antique Shop. May you find your J. May you find your Min. May you find home. And may you be brave enough to walk through the door when it appears. Because it will appear. It always does. For those willing to see it. Underscore 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 underscore. Listen. Do you hear it? The rain is falling. Somewhere, a door is opening. Someone is stepping inside. Searching. Hoping. About to find what they never knew they needed. The bridge remains open. The shop waits. The souls continue their eternal dance. Finding each other. Losing each other. Finding each other again. Across time. Across space. Across every barrier that existence can construct. Because love is stronger than time. Love is eternal. Love is everything. This is the whisper of time. The voice of every soul that has ever loved and loved again. Did you hear it? Will you answer? Your door is waiting. All you have to do is walk through it. And when you do, when the rain is falling, when the world feels too heavy, when you don't know where you belong, remember this. Somewhere in Seoul, in a small forgotten shop, a music box is playing. And two souls, just like you, just like everyone, are finding their way home. The Echo Antique Shop is real, not as a place, but as a promise. That love waits, that souls recognize each other, that nothing is ever truly lost. Walk through your door. Your J is waiting. Your Min is waiting. Your home is waiting. This has been Whispers of Time. Thank you for listening. And may you find your bridge. Good night.